Ford takes downsizing to the next level by powering its far from tiny Focus family hatch with what looks like the engine from a city runabout. This petrol unit is just 1 litre in size with only 3 cylinders, but it packs the kind of punch you'd expect from a 1.6 at the same time as delivering diesel-style running costs. The way forward? Ford thinks so. Little 1 litre 3-cylinder petrol engines belong in little 1 litre 3-cylinder cars, city runabouts and tiny eco specials, or at least some of them do. So what on earth have we here? A 999cc engine with just a trio of little cylinders and a block so small you could fit it onto an A4 sheet of paper. Yet it must power a 1.2 tonne 5-door Focus family hatchback or estate. For goodness sake, what were Ford thinking? The answer is that in bringing us such a groundbreaking piece of design, they were thinking outside of the box. Now, this unit may weigh just 97 kilograms, but it packs quite a punch, capable of either 100 or 125 PS in the guises being offered, both of which are there to replace the ageing 1.6 litre petrol unit that used to undergird the mainstream Focus lineup. Now, this is a level of power slightly beyond what most Super Mini buyers will want, hence Ford's decision to fit this power plant first in its slightly larger compact family cars, not only in this Focus, but also in its B-Max and C-Max Mini MPV models. But can this engine really match a petrol 1.6 when it comes to speed and refinement? And is it really as efficient as a rival diesel 1.6 when it comes to running costs? And is it ultimately good enough, as Ford suggests, to account for up to 30% of total Focus sales? All big questions. We're here to get some answers. 3-cylinder engines, in my experience, are noisy old things, but twist the ignition key here and you wouldn't know that that's what was under the bonnet. Plenty of engineering blood, sweat and tears has been put into refinement here, and it's paid off. At idle, you hardly hear the thing turning over, but what'll it be like out on the road? After all, such small engines usually need loads of revving if you're going to get them to go anywhere. Not this one. It's true that not much happens below 2000 RPM, but from then on this little motor really gets going. There's 170 Newton meters of pulling power, and if you need that little bit of extra urge to get you past that irritating lorry up front, then the engine has an overboost facility that'll give you an extra 30 Newton meters for up to 30 seconds, so you can safely get the job done. Now, it's true that you do have to use the gearbox a little more than you would in a diesel. There's a 5-speeder in the lower powered 100 PS version and a 6-speeder in the 125 PS model that I'm driving here. But that's no hardship, thanks to the fast fluid action and the well-chosen gear ratios. Stir the stick about and the engine charges towards its 6,500 RPM limit with so much enthusiasm that you wonder if the quoted performance figures are actually a bit conservative. These suggest the 100 PS variant to be capable of getting from rest to 60 in about 12.5 seconds on the way to a top speed of 115 miles an hour, while the 125 PS model manages rest to 60 in 11.3 seconds on the way to a top speed of 120 miles an hour. Of course, driving like this won't be conducive to achieving those headline-making fuel and CO2 figures. With a diesel, you can press on a bit and still get a pretty good showing at the pumps, whereas with this particular model, you have to really adjust your driving style in order to achieve the quoted running cost benefits. The problem is, though, that if you're an enthusiastic driver, this Focus really does encourage you to enjoy yourself at the wheel. With this particular engine, there's 30 kilograms less of weight up front in the nose, so turn-in is sharper. And turn into corners was already a Focus strong point thanks to a clever torque vectoring system which lightly brakes the inside front wheel during sharp turns so that turn-in is sharper and that all the power can be got right down onto the tarmac where you want it. Now, it really works. Get out of one of these, then go and drive a Vauxhall Astra or a Volkswagen Golf by comparison. I guarantee that it'll feel dull compared to this Ford. Under the bonnet, this groundbreaking engine looks as small as the stats suggest a 999cc power plant might in a car of this size. Though with all the engine, ancillaries and pumps positioned at the front of the little block, Ford's engineers have ensured that it fills out most of the available space. It's a clever bit of kit this, with 4 tiny valves per cylinder, variable camshaft timing, direct fuel injection, probably the smallest turbocharger ever developed for a production car, and a stop-start system that cuts the engine when you don't need it, when you're stuck in traffic or waiting at the lights. Aside from the engine stuff, of course, it's all familiar focus, which means that you get the choice of either this 5-door hatch or this pleasingly sleek 5-door estate. Now, this third generation model is certainly a more agile and interesting piece of design than its predecessor, even if it is slightly narrower. That's intentional, actually, part of a more dynamic stance that sees this car sit 60mm closer to the ground than the Mark II model did, its slight increase in length disguised by distinct side creases. It's not a look to stop passers-by in their tracks, but it is much neater and very clearly Ford Focus. And inside, well, the quality is so much higher these days, as it needs to be for the prices being asked. There isn't quite the hewn from granite feel that you get in a Golf, but the concept of this cockpit is so much more interesting and driver-centric, with these deeply recessed dials and a neat bank of switches in the middle of the dash, arranged in a mobile phone-inspired herringbone design around a small central rotary controller. Better still, there's a near perfect seating position, which at last on a Focus sees the driver's seat properly positioned in a lower, more road-focused position. You'll need plenty of time with the handbook to get used to all the button options on the steering wheel, though. There can be up to 23 different functions to select. The curved rear roofline suggests that headroom might be a little compromised here in the back. It's a place where you sit highishly positioned for a good view of the road ahead. In fact, though, the extra length and longer wheelbase have enabled the designers to pull a rabbit out of a hat and actually create perfectly acceptable standards of head and legroom, even for taller passengers. Provided, of course, that there are only 2 of them. As is usual with this class of car, 3 adults are going to need to be quite friendly to share space on the back seat. 3 kids would be quite happy, though. And the boot? Well, the 316 litres of space on offer is a little less than you get in an Astra or a Golf, but it'll probably be sufficient for most owners. And of course, you can push forward the 60/40 split folding rear seat to free up extra room, in this case extending the space to as much as 1,102 litres. Beyond that, there's always the estate body style, which offers 476 litres in the boot. That's extendable to 1,502 litres if you push forward the rear seats. So, how much will you be paying for this technological marvel? Well, about the same as you would for an ordinary petrol-powered family hatchback, developing somewhere between 90 and 130 PS is the answer. Let me be more specific. Focus 1 litre EcoBoost list pricing suggests that you'll be paying somewhere between £17,000 and £22,500, depending on the engine and the model that you choose. And within that, the 100 PS version of this power plant is priced in the £17,000 to £18,000 bracket, and the 125 PS variant that I've been trying is pitched somewhere in the £18,000 to £22,500 sector. When it comes to this engine, which of the 2 power outputs you choose may well be heavily influenced by the trim level that you want. Base variants come only with the 100 PS version of this unit, while a really plush model will only come with the 125 PS variant. In a mid-spec model like this, though, you get the choice of either. And there's a £500 premium to go from the 100 PS 1 litre EcoBoost to the 125 PS version that I've got here. Opt for the estate body style rather than this 5-door hatch, and you're looking at a model for model premium of around £1,100. As for competitors, well, there are of course any number of them, but to give you an idea, let's narrow this down to Ford's two toughest competitors, Vauxhall's Astra and Volkswagen's Golf. In 100 PS 1 litre EcoBoost form, this Focus competes directly with the 100 PS 1.4 litre 16-valve Vauxhall Astra and the 85 PS 1.2 TSI Volkswagen Golf. But both of these will return you 10 fewer miles for every gallon of petrol, and will return CO2 figures that are about 20 grams per kilometre worse. And if you go for a comparable version of a Peugeot 308 or a Renault Megane, you'll do even worse. When it comes to the Focus's 125 PS 1 litre EcoBoost petrol unit, that's the one I've been driving here, then the equivalent Volkswagen Golf can get a little closer, because it too has a downsized power plant, 105 PS 1.2 litre TSI unit that can match the pokier Ford's performance, though it can't get close to this Focus's running costs. Still, at least Volkswagen has made an effort. Virtually every other petrol-powered family hatchback in this sector, developing between 120 and 130 PS, needs a smoky old engine of 1.6 litres in size to do it, and that'll mean it'll be about 25% less efficient than this Ford. As for standard equipment, well, even basic versions get the basics. So expect to find things like air conditioning, a height-adjustable driver's seat, a trip computer, an alarm, power windows, electric mirrors, remote central locking, and Bluetooth compatibility for your mobile phone, whichever variant you choose. If you want more, then you'll need to opt for either a plusher trim level or go for one of the various options packs that group together various items of popular standard equipment to make specifying your car a bit more affordable. I'm going to mention the cleverest of these, the driver assistance pack, because it really gives you an idea of the kind of technology that can be built into this car. Now, a lot of it's based around a camera that is rather neatly built into the screen here, and that can give you things like an active city stop system that scans the road ahead for possible collision situations, and if one is detected, will warn you. If you don't respond or aren't able to, then at low speeds, the car can even brake itself. There's also the possibility for the camera to scan speed limit signs as you pass them and display them on the dash. And at night, it can even detect oncoming motorists and dip your headlamps for you. The same kind of technology can warn you through a vibration in the steering wheel if you veer out of your lane on the highway. And there's a lane keeping aid that can even steer you back in to that lane if you don't respond. The system can also warn you if you're dangerously pulling out to overtake and there's a vehicle in your blind spot. And it can monitor your driving movements and warn you if it seems like really you need a break. Other relatively affordable extra cost technology includes active park assist that'll self-steer you into the tightest spaces, adaptive cruise control, which uses a radar to keep you a safe distance from the car in front on the highway, and a speed limiter to prevent unintentional speeding. Now, much of this is about safety, of course, and Ford has made sure that all the basics here are covered. So all Focus models come with twin front, side and curtain airbags, plus the usual Isofix child seat fastenings, a pedestrian-friendly bonnet, and the usual electronic assistance for braking and traction control, as well as ESP stability control. That's really something you'd expect to find now on this class of car. There are also emergency brake lights that flash in an emergency stop to warn following motorists. Ford describes this car as a time machine, taking family motorists back to a period of lower fuel prices without compromising either power or drivability. Now, for proof, the company points to the fact that the 100 PS version of this 1 litre EcoBoost model will cost you just 10.8 pence per mile to run, a figure that's slightly better than an owner of an equivalently powerful Focus would have paid way back in 2008. Now, what makes that stat so impressive is the way that fuel prices have spiraled out of all recognition since then. By the time that this Focus 1 litre EcoBoost was launched in early 2012, fuel prices were up 34% over 2008. And there's a trend going on here too. After years of being pummeled by diesel power when it comes to running cost comparisons, the petrol engine is making a comeback. This 1 litre EcoBoost petrol unit proves it. Let me give you a few comparisons from within the Focus range in order to make the point. The 100 PS version of this 1 litre unit compares directly to a Focus diesel with a 95 PS 1.6 litre TDCi engine. Now, both units will be as cheap to tax with a identical 109 grams per kilometre CO2 return. It is true that the diesel will be slightly better in terms of fuel economy. The 1 litre EcoBoost in 100 PS4 manages 58.9 miles to the gallon, but that is within 9 miles to the gallon of the diesel. And the difference is more than accounted for when you take note of the fact that petrol is up to 10 pence per litre cheaper to buy, and that the 1 litre petrol EcoBoost Focus will cost you, well, around £1,000 less up front. Opt for the Pokia 125 PS 1 litre EcoBoost engine in your Focus, the one I've got here, and the sums don't stack up quite as sharply. For a start, this variant has no real price advantage over a comparable 115 PS 1.6 litre TDCi Focus diesel, and the CO2 return drops to a still very acceptable 114 grams per kilometre. Still, the fuel consumption's still stellar, 56.5 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle. And if you compare that against the kinds of figures that you get from a rival 1.6 litre 16 valve 115 PS Vauxhall Astra, that Vauxhall manages 44.8 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and belches out 147 grams per kilometre of CO2. That kind of comparison really illustrates the size of Ford's achievement here. Bear in mind, though, that if you start driving this car hard, then it'll have more of an impact on those quoted figures than would be the case if you were pushing on in an equivalent diesel model. Which makes all the more important Ford's provision of various tools to help everyday drivers get somewhere near to the official returns on a regular basis. These include a gear shift indicator there to help you shift cogs more efficiently, and Ford's clever Eco Mode driving system, which enables you to alter your driving style. It gives you various tips that'll help you do that and improve your fuel efficiency by as much as, 10%. If you are lulled by this 1 litre EcoBoost Focus into thinking that you're in a diesel and you pull into the pumps and you're about to miss fuel, then you'll be very glad of the fact that it's got a very clever nozzle that won't allow a diesel pump to be inserted into it. What else? Insurance groupings are competitive. You're looking at groups 10E to 11E for the 100 PS 1 litre EcoBoost model, and if you go for the 125 PS variant that I've got here, you're looking at anything between groups 14E and 15E. So, can less really mean more? Well, Ford reckons so. And after driving this 1 litre EcoBoost Focus, I think most buyers would be inclined to agree. Most people, I think, would be better off going for one of these and fueling from the green pump than buying a diesel. The lower purchase price, the cheaper petrol, and comparable fuel and CO2 emissions figures mean that it's difficult really to see the downside. And it's a nice bonus that this variant feels even better to drive. What we're looking at here is almost certainly the most impressive engine ever fitted to a Ford Focus. It isn't just that it achieves its eco targets so comfortably, but that it does so with such exceptional smoothness and refinement, allied to energetic performance and an engagingly charismatic soundtrack. In short, it's a game changer. A petrol engine that challenges the idea that the future is diesel, electric, or some combination between the two. It also lays to rest that tired old cliche about there being no substitute for cubic inches. If you still believe that, then Ford has a simple message for you. Go drive one of these.